right now. There we go. Um, so you let us know when you are ready for these questions. Like I said, we've got 70 of them. They're separated into specific categories. We've got TikTok questions, social media questions in general, about your personality in real life outside of TikTok, your feelings about education, professional goals, AI related questions, because I've not heard you talk a lot about that, and that's like a popular sort of topic. Criminal history, the documentary that you made. Those, we have the most questions about your documentary because there was a lot of stuff that got brought up there that we were particularly interested in.
Right. And that was unplanned. I mean, it was unscripted. It was just like rambling, more or less. Yeah.
We've watched it multiple times, and it is pretty good. It is pretty good.
It's an entertaining documentary.
We have some questions about your romantic experiences, and then lastly, we have some miscellaneous questions.
Sure, I'm great with everything. I mean, I look at my life, whether I'm honest about it or not, is the same. So I'm pretty well open. Like, I'm obviously not going to name women's names because some of them have husbands.
Shoot, we understand that.
I don't know why married women, it's a weird thing that married women really have a thing for me. I have a hard time meeting single women, but meeting married women everywhere I go. Which is unusual. Like, I really don't. Some people think I prefer married women. I don't. It's just I seem to meet married women and not
it's just like that
single
sometimes.
ones.
You're a dog, Stu. You're a dog. All right.
Well, I'm not nearly as bad as I pretend to be, or maybe I'm worse. I don't know. Nobody thinks they're bad, I guess.
So let's open up with some of the TikTok questions that I've got. I've got them all written down here, so I hope you don't mind if I read them off.
No, of course not.
Before we get into it. So number one, you've blown up on TikTok with over 900,000 followers. Congratulations. And I wanted to know when, if ever, did you realize that your TikTok would blow up as much as it has?
I thought I knew it would. I believed it would blow up, and it has. But what happened is I started about a year and a half ago. And then as soon as it got to like 170,000 or so, that one got shut down. They had a second one. It got to like 125. It got shut down. And then November, I opened this one, and it just.
Well, that's crazy. Just a year of growth. That is.
Yeah, and then I have a backup account. Saul Goodman 5G, and that one's at 550,000.
We gonna have to follow the backup account once this is over, because we absolutely stay on there with you, dude. Do you think that like the 100,000 from both of those other accounts, do you think that they followed you to this one, or do you think that you've amassed a 900,000 group that is not the same people?
The vast majority are different people, because every now and then someone will come out and say, "I've been looking for your account for 8 months or 9 months. I finally found you again," and that's happened often. So.
Number two that I would like to ask is, do you see yourself sticking to your niche on TikTok, or do you have bigger plans? Would you like to expand from what you've been working on?
Yeah, I look at TikTok as sort of like when I was in law school, I went to acting school and then got out and people did headshots. So I see TikTok as my headshot to let people look and see what I'm capable of.
Well, do you intend to go into acting? Like, is that your?
Yeah, I did the documentary, and then there was a director. There's something, and it's now on Vimeo called The Straight Ball.
I'm gonna go look it up.
Yeah, and that director is like a Hollywood director who does sort of underground type films, but he's worked with Matthew McConaughey and people like that. And he was in Toronto at a screening, and someone who found me. Who wants to remain anonymous for some reason, but he was a third generation Hollywood dude. Like his grandfather was a producer director. His parents are both producer directors. And he found me on TikTok and just reached out to me when I was like nobody, like when I had like 2,000 or 3,000 followers, and we developed a phone relationship. And then FaceTime or whatever. And he phoned me and said, "Listen, you've got to meet this guy, Eugene. He's the greatest director in the world. He's in 20 years from now, he will be looked back on as the #1 director. Because he's so innovative, he's so talented." He said, "You got to go to his screen. If you meet him, you're set for life." And I said, yeah. And then he phones me back. He said, "I have his number from I met him at a screening somewhere. Let me phone him and see if he'll, if he'll meet you." And so he goes, his ex-girlfriend runs a podcast in New York, and she loved you. She watched all your stuff. So he's left tickets for you at the screening. So I went to the screening. I met him for a few minutes. And the next day he phones me, he says, listen, do you want to do a movie? I said, sure. And so he came by the hotel room, and he said, this is the scenario. Just go with it. Like unscripted. And that was the Straight Ball. Have you seen that one? Or
I've not seen
Yeah,
that,
I was
but we
unaware.
will
Yeah.
absolutely look into that after this. That
yeah,
actually does
it's
sound
on
pretty
Vimeo
good.
only. It's an 11-minute movie, and it's about I play I think a 50-year-old man or something like that. And I have a son who's around 30, but I've been a slut. I have all these different kids from different women. And so he's out on a Tinder date, and they just don't get along. He figures he'll pawn her off on me.
Nice.
Nice.
There we
So
go.
he comes to the hotel room, and I'm hitting on her, sort of. Or my son leaves, and then I'm really creepily hitting on her.
Yeah.
It's quite funny. I really like it.
We will have to check that out.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think Alex has a question that he'd want to throw in here real quick. This is my roommate Alex. He's also a big fan of yours.
Yeah, huge fan.
I'm really honored to have fans who are like a little bit older than most of my fans. And most of my fans are like, even the women who are like 25 and 35 and 45 are just obsessed with me in a really weird way.
Yeah.
Like, like some of them are married and like successful and like with multiple degrees and wealthy husbands, and they're just like completely obsessed with me.
Well, what do you think about you attracts that sort of like
I
fandom?
have no idea. I find it really amusing because I have no idea.
Is this something you've noticed throughout your whole life, that you've attracted these sort of?
I always attracted women, but I always had fancy cars and money and success. So, and all my male friends said, oh, they're just after you. They just like you because you have money. And I go into a restaurant for lunch with like 3 or 4 guys, and the waitress is being extra friendly to me, and they go, oh, because she knows what kind of car you drive. I go, how the fuck does she know what kind of car I drive? So it's always been the thing. I think it's just my openness and honesty more than anything else. But some of the women are saying, no, it's your looks. So you're just stunning. And I never thought of myself as particularly good looking, or is it that women cared about looks that much?
Well, my third TikTok related question is, we know that you post a lot of videos and you go live often, but do you watch a lot of other content creators?
Almost none. Almost none.
You never scroll through TikTok?
I could name 5 creators.
That's wow.
Sometimes someone will say, this guy reminds me of you, and I'll watch 1 or 2 of the videos, but no, I don't find it that interesting.
Well, how do you keep on top of like because I notice you use a lot of like trendy songs that are sort of popular on TikTok at the moment. How do you find those? Are you just looking at like what song is trending?
Yeah, I'll just go to music and pick ones, and I like the sound and I'll go with it. Or often a few of the women say, dance to this, dance to that.
Okay.
So,
we were wondering about that, how you stayed on top of that, because it definitely seems like, you're with whatever is currently blowing up. You're reliably right there with
I wasn't even aware of how my songs relate to other songs. And I've always loved music. So I'm always listening to different music anyways. So I don't even know if there's there's some of the new stuff like today, Drake's album. I hadn't heard that except on TikTok, but I thought it sucked.
That's a very popular opinion. There's some people that will passionately defend Drake, but after that last album, it's probably been a whole lot harder.
I think as a producer and a businessman, he's a genius. But musically, he's so fucking lame.
I actually 100% agree with that. My fourth TikTok related question and my last TikTok related question. Do you actually like doing TikTok, or do you wish that you had another dispersal method to like get your message out there?
I wish I had another dispersal method, and it's only finances that's stopping me. Because as soon as I have a little bit of money, extra money, I want to do my own app, because I don't like the restrictive and sort of bullying attitude. And I don't like being used as a tool of the Chinese government to warp the ideals of the youth, which is really what it's there for. It's a political tool. And I'm not very pro-Chinese government.
Well,
not a lot of people are.
Not either, man. My next few questions, there are 4 of them. They're social media related. So it's kind of like TikTok, but not really. Number 1, do you have a particular social media platform that you prefer to use other than TikTok?
Well, I want to come up with my own. I'm going to call. I want to basically rip off TikTok and have it redone, just like they ripped off Instagram and Facebook. They're all copies of each other, and call it Sick Fuck.
Nice.
That is
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I will get on with
number 2, do you enjoy engaging with your fans, or is it simply a part of being big on TikTok? Is that just something?
No, I really enjoy engaging with them. In fact, the people who I spoke to in Hollywood say, why do you do the lives? They're a waste of time. You do a video and you get a shitty video now, will get 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 1 million views. You never have more than 2, 3, 500 people on your lives. Why do you do them? And I really believe I'm helping people.
Well, I think I saw a TikTok where you said the videos that you think are the worst are the ones that blow up the most.
Yeah, I don't understand
true?
that at all. I don't understand. Like, I'll say something completely ridiculous. It'll get 2 million views. I'll do a dance that I think is great and it'll get 400 views, or now 1,000 or something, but I don't have many under 1,000. But yeah.
Well, my third social media related question is, would you say that the global rise in social media use has hurt or developed global communities?
I think it's hurt it. I mean, people are now like, they want the 15-second hits. It's almost like a drug to them. Like it's an escape rather than like, I try to use TikTok so people open their mind and think. Whereas I think most of the stuff on social media is to close your mind and numb you, like to distract you from reality.
That is actually a pretty good point. I've not thought about that like that. My fourth social media question, and my last one, how old do you think that people need to be before they begin engaging with others online, such as sites like Omegle or social media like Facebook or Instagram? Like, how old do you think that someone needs to be before they should be allowed to interact with people online?
I think that's between the. I think that's between the parents and the children. My kids, I sort of supervised them till they were like late teen, 14. At 14, they were smart enough to go their own way. But at one point, I would sort of monitor what they were using and to the degree that we're using it. And that's how I opened up my Facebook account when my son was 8, because he wanted to go on Facebook. What the fuck is this? Because I wasn't really a social media guy.
Well, that was it for my social media questions. The next one that I have are relate to your personality outside of TikTok, in real life, just roaming around your day-to-day. Which character traits were present in you when you were younger that you think that you no longer possess?
I think none of them. I describe myself this way. An infant has certain ways, or toddler, of thinking. I still think that way, and it still have that in me. Then when you're like 10, 11, you have a certain attitude. As a young teen, you do. As a late teen, you do. As in your 20s and 30s, you do. So I have all those aspects. I never died. Like, it's sort of, as people get old, their old self dies. I have all that stuff in me still. Like I still, and that's why I think I learn very quickly. I learn like an infant or like a toddler. Like I have a totally open mind to new ideas and stuff, just like a kid does. I'm just a really mature baby.
Well, it certainly feels that way sometimes. Which character trait do you possess that you feel is the most rare?
Honesty. And honesty and self-confidence are almost the same. If you're self-confident, you're honest. If you're honest, you're self-confident.
Well, in terms of honesty, how much of your internet persona like resembles your real life, like the real life Stuart Rosenthal?
It's almost exactly the same. It's exaggerated on social media, but it's really not that different. Like the people I've met a few women who saw me on social media, and then they met me in real life, and they said, "Oh, you're much calmer and quieter in real life." And some were actually saying, "I was a little worried about meeting you and thought you were really a maniac," until they.
That was actually, I was going to ask a question about that, because you've stated both in the documentary and in your lives and stuff like that, that you were interested in an acting career. And I was going to ask, how much of your online persona do you inject with that like passion for acting?
My passion for performing and acting and being I wanted to be a rock star, an actor, is all there. Yeah, so there's a lot of that in there, and I honestly believe it's going to do a career. Even though to become a rock star in your 60s is pretty unusual. I don't think anybody else has done it. But I think I'm going to do it. Like, as insane as it sounds.
Well, you seem to be incredibly jovial, which is kind of something that inspired this next question that I have. Is it possible for you to trust someone again after they have wronged you?
I always give people second chances. Now I'm less likely to do so because I realize that, you know, people don't change very much. You know, some people do, but it's pretty rare. Yeah. So,
And then my last question about your personality is, do you think that the use of various illegal substances have altered your personality, like over the course of your life? Do you think that the experimentation with these different things has kind of changed the way that you behave?
I think it's opened my mind and made me more, like I grew up in a really snotty environment, like in Forest Hill, where like sort of like Hollywood, except like a very wealthy area where like the cheapest house there would be about $5 million today. So it's a really snotty, stuck up area. And I think that I sort of opened my mind to other ideas and stuff, especially with hallucinogens. Like I'm very pro hallucinogens in terms of what they do for people. And what I've always thought is now being proven scientifically.
Well, yeah, they're using it.
And I
to
read a really
PTSD.
interesting paper that now that
they've been using it to treat PTSD, depression, a bunch of different hallucinogens.
In one of my
and they cause
psychology
neuronal
classes,
growth.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. In one of my psychology classes, they talked about how the use of hallucinogens, like specifically LSD and mushrooms, causes neurogenesis.
Yeah, and there's but there's also now some research out of London and out of I think Harvard Medical School that it also causes physical regeneration.
That's
Which makes sense because you're basically a nervous system, and everything else is just support for it.
Yeah,
like for your brain. So it's like everything else is you sort of like input devices for your consciousness or your mind.
Well, my next set of questions has to do with education. And my first question is, do you think that school makes people intelligent, or do you think that there are people who are just inherently predisposed to being smart?
I almost never went to school. Like I sort of stopped going to school after grade 9. Like I'd go and write exams only. So I always thought you learned nothing in school. Like I actually, if I couldn't do something, I thought I was stupid because I never had the concept of learning when I was younger. I just had it like innate intelligence. But part of that is I had a sister who was 2 years older than me. So I think I absorbed it through osmosis, a lot of it. And I was always reading and learning on my own. But I hated school. I found it so slow and so boring. So after grade 9, when I entered high school, it was 10 to 13 in Toronto. In Ontario, back then we had grade 13 and one less year in university, which I thought was a great system because it means everybody else has 1 year of university. Everybody gets that education. They get rid of it, and then people who don't go to university have a disadvantage. So I'm really against the elitist way of educating people. And also, I went to high school where to teach there, when I went there, I think it's changed because Forest Hill was a village within Toronto, in the center of Toronto, but it was a separate village. So we had our own, it amalgamated into Toronto in 1967. I was already living there. I was 7 years old. But they kept the school system where to teach at Forest Hill at the high school, you had to have a doctorate. Every one of our teachers had a PhD.
Oh my gosh.
And they were paid triple what the other teachers in Toronto were paid. You know, so it was an elitist system paid for by the government, which is totally unfair. You want to pay for a private school, fine. But the public paying for a private school, which wasn't even a private school. And the same thing, like we weren't allowed to, but we'd go and smoke pot right outside in the yard. Nobody would say, police wouldn't dare bother us. The teachers would just put up with it. Whereas if you were in a poor school in Toronto, they call the police, you get arrested, you get expelled. So I'm very against class differences. They're unfair.
You mentioned that when you were younger and you were in school and whatnot, that you didn't see like the use for it as much. Now that you've kind of recognized how useful some of these things are, if you could go back to school again, but this time I'm kind of focusing on like university. If you could go again entirely for free, would you?
No, I mean, there's nothing. I'd learned stuff on my own. I think I learned quicker on my own.
Okay.
And I think also university today is not to teach you. It's to teach you rules and to recite things and memorize things, rather than to teach you to think. And I think thinking is a skill that's important. Not especially with Google and stuff. Why do you need facts? You know, so I'm really disappointed that the whole system is to close down minds and close down critical thinking, and you know, which I always thought university was to have new ideas and critical thinking and advance ideas rather than just follow the ideals of Zeus. You know?
Mm-hmm. And I know you just mentioned Zeus. You've said in TikToks and a lot of lives that you don't associate with any organized religion. Like,
No, I think it's
what's your own like personal cosmology? Like, what do you like? Do you believe in a higher being, or could you explain that?
not a being. I believe in a creator.
Okay.
But I don't think of it as an entity with a beard and, you know, and stuff like that. I think it's an intelligent energy that exists, and it's within all of us, because what takes you, I mean, and what tells your body or tells you to make, when you eat a potato or eat an orange, to make skin cells or eye cells or heart cells or whatever, instead of just existing. And there's an intelligent energy or force. And, you know, people call that God. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I would describe it as a creative energy or the creator's energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all part of that. And I think it's beyond the comprehension. It's like asking your dog how to explain how nuclear physics works or something. You know, it's just beyond our comprehension as humans.
Mm-hmm. Well, going back to what you were talking about, how universities have kind of changed their purpose over time, do you think that these institutions have gotten easier? Or do you attribute things such as, because graduation rates have increased dramatically over the past, I don't know, what, like 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
Do you think that that's because that school has gotten necessarily easier? Or do you relate that or blame that on something else?
I'm not really sure. I didn't know the rates were up that much. Is it percentage wise the rates or
Yeah,
volume?
absolutely.
I think so. I can get the figure if you want it.
Wow.
Look that up.
It's
See, because I grew up in an era where
something
everybody, no
percent.
matter what, went to university. So I didn't even understand. Like when I was 18 or 19, I didn't know that some people didn't go to university. I thought everybody did.
Mhm.
Like I grew up in a very sheltered environment
Mhm.
and sort of reached out to it. But I was like, I'd meet someone who wasn't in high school. I thought, what? People don't go to, like, some people drop out of high school. It was like,
Mhm.
and when I went through school, you could not fail, basically.
Mhm. How do you mean?
Like, it didn't matter what you did, they'd pass you. Like law school, like the dumbest people I've ever met in my life are lawyers. I might have met more lawyers than anything else, but they're really stupid.
That is, I wouldn't have thought about it like that. But graduation rates, absolutely. Do you have the numbers on that?
I don't have. I'm having trouble seeing the specific numbers, but they do have charts where they show it increasing. I'm not finding one with percentages, but the like,
Well, population's double.
yeah,
So
the population's going up,
you
so
know,
it's not necessarily like,
and there's so many more schools
Yeah.
now too. Like,
Mm-hmm. And then lastly, about education, what class do you think should exist that doesn't?
I never even thought about that. I'm not really into education. I've always thought I never liked education. You know,
Mhm.
obviously once I had kids, I insisted they go to
Yeah.
school. But
Well,
yeah, I guess things that teach people minds and think rather than memorize and recite.
mhm.
You know, like I'd rather try something new and fail than repeat the same thing over and over again.
And now I want to move on to asking questions about professional goals and professional fields. Um, Number one is kind of less about your past professions, but more about, professions in general. Do you think that a farmer today has a responsibility to their community to provide for the community's needs, given the dramatic lack of general agricultural knowledge, or do average citizens only have themselves to blame for industrialization? Because what is it called when people move out of the country and they move into the cities?
Urbanization, or
Yeah, urbanization has taken, I mean, you look at the percentages of people that used to be agricultural, compare that to the percentage of people that now live in major cities where there is no need for them to have this, like the knowledge of how to farm and all kinds of things like that, because these things are provided for them. Are we to blame the people who have moved into the cities for their lack of knowledge? Or is that, can we attribute that to more of a general social industrialization movement?
well,
Like,
it's caused by a general social industrial movement, but I think individuals have to take individual responsibility and get the knowledge themselves. For example, like I read and pay attention to what's healthy and what's not, And it becomes very simple. Like if you look at food today, most of it is pure chemicals and synthetic. So common sense would tell you that's not really good for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, the sugar industry, the pharmaceutical industry, like industry is so corrupt now. Like money is all they care about. And like COVID is a great example of it. Like, especially now that the data is coming out that like I don't know if you've seen it, but the overall death rates have gone up by 15% worldwide since COVID.
Oh no, I've not
Wow,
seen that.
that's
Yeah.
staggering. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Scotland did prenatal, what perinatal, the first month of life, what's called perinatal. Yeah. 400% increase in perinatal deaths.
Wow.
And nobody knows why. And then they, you know, they're saying the vaccine, da, da, da. Everybody get vaccinated because the death rate is so high. Turns out in Italy, there was a cancer study that started in September 2019. They still had the blood samples. They tested them, and almost 10.8% of the people had antibodies for COVID-19 4 months before it existed, according to popular science. Right? In October, it was up to almost 20%. So when you look at death rates and you realize, hold on, it wasn't 1,000 people getting it, it was 100,000 people getting it. The actual death rate was like 0.1%, not 1% or 1.5%, which means the vaccine was almost useless and should never have been given to people under 50 or 60. You know, but nobody, like mainstream media isn't really talking about this, but these numbers are like government numbers. They're not like conspiracy theorists and stuff like that, because so I mean, and it was just a big, not a cover up and not a conspiracy, but there was just so much money there and so much stupidity, and almost 100% now it seems clear that it was accidentally released, and that was gain of function research going on in that lab. The Americans were involved. France left. France was part of that project. Said, we're leaving because you're not using proper safety protocols at that lab. So it was a national, you know, you can't blame the Chinese, because the National Health Institute of the States, Fauci, was backing the research. Like they were doing it together. And somebody fucked up. And even if you look at the difference in the DNA between COVID-19 and the bat virus that they're saying it evolved from, there's a 7% difference in the DNA or the RNA, right? Like the difference between you and a goldfish isn't that great. So like in nature, there's no way it evolved that quickly. And their argument was, well, it's a small virus, so viruses do evolve quicker than other species. But something else with it, yeah. And you know, if you look at COVID-1, not COVID-19, but the other COVID before it, I think it's 10 years before SARS, the original SARS, they could find all the animal species where it evolved, where it went from bat to bird to human, right? And it also was found in 8 or 9 different areas, 500, 600 miles away. COVID only started in one place. So how did it go into the animal? The animals only went there? Because it would have to go to multiple animals. Animals don't follow rules. So it's clear, and there's Senate hearings on it. So it's 100% clear that it was a fuck up. And, you know, so it's not a conspiracy because they didn't intentionally release it, but they tried to cover up their mistakes instead of just saying, oh, fuck, this happened and let's deal with it. You know,
that is, I've not thought about that, and I have not seen those numbers. So that was,
yeah, and they're available. Like, you know, you can find them on the internet, and they're not from like underground sources or all these. Because I don't buy the conspiracy idiots either that it's like an attempt to control world population, although indirectly it's certainly doing that. Like populations are declining for the first time in history worldwide. Even in China has negative growth rate, and India, 2 countries that were like having problems with the population, now declining. You know?
Well, what was their percent of their population? It's like over 65. That's like staggeringly high, but I don't remember what the exact percentage was.
Oh, in China? I don't know, but it is pretty
It's like
high.
that everywhere, but I think there particularly, it was like just, you know.
Yeah, because they had the one birth rule.
Yeah.
And now they don't. They got rid of that rule, and now they're importing women because they're short of women, because in the countryside, if you have a daughter, they were drowning them, and they continue to. because they can't work on the farm and they're starving, and there's nothing, like they have no social benefits in China.
Well, talking about medical stuff, that brings me to my next profession-related question, and that is, does the Hippocratic Oath put doctors in an unfair moral quandary when someone such as a Ted Bundy ends up on their operating table? Because due to the Hippocratic Oath, they've agreed that they're going to do everything they can to save every life that's put in front of them. But in a situation such as that, where they have a disgusting human being in front of them, is it not at that point worth it to disregard the oath that they took? I mean, is that
I would.
I'm with you, Stu.
But the reason you shouldn't is because you're not then you become the judge, jury, and executioner. And what if the person isn't guilty? What if it was his twin? I mean, like Ted Bundy obviously did it. Plenty of times people are wrong. Like the system's imperfect, so I don't think a doctor should make that decision.
And then I wanted to ask about technology. And my first question about that is, how much further should we push technological innovation? An example that I would like to use is, do we as humans have a right to build artificial intelligence?
Well, whether we do because we're going to do it, is it a wise thing to do? Well, every technology that we've had in the history of mankind, from even from stones, the Dark Ages till today, or even the Stone Age till today, has been used for good and bad. So we know it's going to be misused because computers are misused, guns are misused, medicines are misused. So it's going to be misused, but part of humanity is to advance. And it's going to happen regardless, so we should use it and try to control it in proper ways.
Well, talking about AI, that's got me into some AI related questions. It's one thing that I'm always interested to hear your thoughts on, but I don't hear you talk about it a lot in your lives. So it was one that I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. So and then my first one: as we continue to develop more and more enhanced technology, it is inevitable that we would create an AI so powerful that it is indistinguishable from humans. Would destroying that AI count as murder? If it's intelligent enough that
if it has consciousness,
tell
if
it
it has
apart
actual consciousness, it would. But I don't think a machine will ever have consciousness. Because I think consciousness is part of what I was talking about, some God energy or whatever, God force that is within us. So I don't think it would ever get to that point. But what if we start merging the two? Because that's going to happen.
Like a cyborg?
I think also every technology that we think is coming, and we think, that's going to take 20 years to come, it's there within a year. And it's speeding up technology. So it's just insane. Like I think for sure in my lifetime there will be a merging of humans and machines at one point.
Well, is a relationship with an AI that is nearly indistinguishable, because like you said, they probably won't have true consciousness, so it is nearly indistinguishable from people. Would a relationship with that AI be legitimate?
It depends on the individual, because most people don't have much awareness. So it might be the equivalent to the average person.
Would you have a relationship with an AI, Stu?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It wouldn't be exciting enough for me. It would be interesting.
You don't think that it would be cool to learn about a computer that thinks like a person?
I don't think it would ever think quite like a person. It wouldn't have it. If it had emotions, it would be fake.
All right.
Because they're binary, right? They're all yes and no. But whereas we have gray. Same reason, if you look, most terrorists are electrical engineers, because they think binary, 0 or 1, yes or no. If you look at like terrorists who've blown shit up in the Middle East, almost all of them are electrical engineers because they have that black and white thinking. And I live with an electrical engineer, and I saw that in her.
I thought about that. My last AI related question is, in the critically acclaimed WALL-E, the AI led to human beings becoming creatures interested in nothing but carnal and gluttonous pleasures. Do you feel this is an accurate depiction of humanity if AI becomes more commonplace? Or do you think that we would develop as a society alongside that?
I think we'd develop we would develop alongside it, and it would have changes in society, but I can't guess what they're going to be because it.
That's a pretty square answer. In my the next section I'd like to talk about is your criminal history. We don't want to get very detailed because you probably don't want to reveal that. There's probably some things you can't say, stuff like that. So
no, I'll say that.
These are just kind of general questions. In the movie New Clown Order, that your documentary, you hint vaguely at an intimate connection with organized crime. While we understand that you can't get into specifics about this, is that the kind of message that you were intending to send, or is that just a misunderstanding on our part?
It's well, I grew up around it. My uncle was like the equivalent of Walter White in Canada or North America at the time. In the early 70s, he was like by far like the largest or the main methamphetamine manufacturer in North America. And growing up, I'd be like 11 years old or 12 years old, and he'd take me with on these meetings. He'd say, these are doctors from Buffalo who were buying pills, and they were all bikers, or a lot of them were bikers. I thought, wow, doctors. I was really into the hippie culture. I thought, wow, doctors in the States are really cool. And so I grew up around that, and I knew a lot of those people. I'm from criminal law and stuff. I knew a lot of those people and worked with a lot of those people. So, and I treat people the same. So even though I was the lawyer and the straight guy or whatever, or the legitimate businessman, the relationship was a true friendship with a lot of them.
Mentioning you being a lawyer, formerly you were a prominent Toronto attorney. Would you attribute your departure from that career due to your involvement in criminal activity, or do you think that you had mentally checked out of that profession before you inevitably left?
I was never really into it. It was always a means to an end, and it was just the money was so easy, and I was taking off the summers and traveling to Europe and buying fancy stuff, and I never worked more than like 3 days a week maybe, so I had all this free time to do whatever I want. So it was sort of a lazy way of making money. But I always thought of that it was selling out. I never really wanted to do it.
That is actually pretty interesting, because we're both in like law kind of esque majors. So one of the things that we think about is like becoming an attorney or whatever. And so that was like a very interesting part of your past that we kind of latched on to, was that. And of course in the documentary you talk about how you weren't the biggest fan of it, and in your lives we've heard you talk about how you weren't necessarily the world's biggest fan of being an attorney. But one thing that you always talked about, and let me see, because I actually did have a question about it somewhere in here, and it is about man, I'm sorry. It has something to do with you saying that you were like a very honest person when you were an attorney, and like defending only like the innocent people. But,
well, not innocent people. I wouldn't take sex offenders, for example. I didn't care if someone sold drugs because I didn't think that was a wrong thing to do. It might not be the right thing to do, but I didn't think you were evil. But I wouldn't take rape cases. I wouldn't take cases like that. Anything that I thought was that I didn't like the person, I didn't like what they did, I would say, sorry, I can't take that case.
Well, I have a question sort of relating to your time in law. And the documentary briefly mentions your relationship with heroin. Were you using heroin before or after law, and how did you like get into that? Was it just like the 90s? Everyone was.
Oh, no. My brother, when I was 30, my brother killed himself. My younger brother Hartley killed himself, and I used that as a coping mechanism. Now, I was a party animal already. Like I had tried every drug out there out of curiosity, but I never thought I could get addicted because I didn't have I didn't have an addictive personality. Like I could pick stuff up, put it down. So
I'm sorry. I'm still trying to find that one question that I had that was about.
And that's what led to me getting involved in like the prescription drug racket and then all that other shit, and the armed robbery and things.
I kind of remember the gist. Would you call yourself a Saul Goodman-esque character when you were?
You know what? I've only seen one or two. I've only seen one or two of Saul Goodman's things, so I don't really know. But I mean, I was a pretty. He never went to law school, right? He was a fake lawyer, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that's the.
I think he.
Well, I never went to law school either, but I wrote the exams. I was properly enrolled, and I wrote the exams.
It was I think that the tagline that we were going for was like is he a criminal defense attorney or is he a criminal defense attorney?
No, I mean, I hung out with my clients a lot, and
Mhm.
partied with them and stuff, but I sort of, I sort of did the proper thing most of the time. But if it was a friend or something, I'd make sure they got off, even if I had to bend the rules a lot.
Nice.
Mhm.
Hell yeah. What do you do for like entertainment now? Do you read? Do you watch TV? Like, what's your sort
I
of?
don't watch any TV. I used to read extensively, and now, like last year, I've been so busy, I haven't really been reading much.
Who
But
are
I
your
used to read
favorite
like a book a
authors?
week. Anything factual. I never read fiction, so I just
Okay.
read a lot of medical, history, philosophy, some
Nice.
philosophy type thing, Buddhism.
Mhm.
I like biographies and autobiographies a lot.
Mhm. Now, the next thing that I want to ask about is the documentary. I've got 11 questions about your documentary, actually, because those were you talked about it a lot in your lives. So we went to go watch it, and yeah, it was very good. But one thing that kind of caught me off guard, and maybe you don't feel this way, and I'm not saying this to be insulting, but after having watched the movie multiple times, it felt like that they portrayed you negatively in the movie.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people saw that. Like, I know a woman who I was dating at the time was very upset by that.
Mhm.
And yeah, I thought they tried to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if did you think that that was an accurate representation of you at that time? Because it seems like after
I haven't
having,
actually watched it. I've only skimmed through it. I haven't watched it.
Mhm.
I
After
know
having watched
I
it,
get it, so why watch it? I like
and it was only shot what, like a year and a half ago, wasn't that?
last November, less than about a year ago.
It seems to me like in the amount of time that has lapsed, it seems almost like you've mellowed out a little bit more. Do you think that that would be fair to say?
That would be fair to say. I've
Are you?
also, like, physically, I'm much stronger. Like in
Mhm.
my dancing and stuff, I have way more energy, and I'm way more confident. Yeah, I can't believe when I look back on it. Like, I was watching, I go, I looked like a different person almost.
Mhm.
Like, I grow and change very quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you still like taking DMT as much as
No,
you?
I haven't used it in
Okay.
some time, and it's more a financial thing because
Yeah.
I actually believe DMT is going to be one of the most important
Oh yeah.
substances in medicine in the world, because LSD, shrooms, and all those things, I believe, mimic DMT. DMT is endogenous in your body. When you sleep and you're dreaming, that's DMT. When you're a fetus, your body's like filled with DMT, and in your infancy, and then it goes down the levels until you're an adult, where you only have minor amounts when you're sleeping.
Mhm.
And because we now know it causes neurogenesis, I think that's why fetuses grow so quickly, and why toddlers learn and infants learn and grow so quickly.
Mhm.
And I think that that a lot of my dancing and physical strength that's improved, and coordination and
Mhm.
other things, and even my face, like people say, I'm saying, are you reversing your aging? Like, you're looking younger every time I see you. And I think the
Mhm.
DMT in many ways did lead to a lot of recuperation of an older body into a younger one.
Hmm.
And I think somewhere it's going to be, I think it's almost a fountain of youth,
Hmm.
which is
Well,
really interesting because, and the interesting about DMT, it's in every cell of every organism on the planet, except for shrooms. I think shrooms don't have DMT.
I'm gonna have to start taking more DMT. That's a very convincing argument you've made.
Have you tried it?
Uh, well, it's very illegal in the United States. I don't know if I want to admit that. But uh,
don't
sure.
talk
How
yourself
can it be
into a
illegal?
box on
But
that.
you know what the thing is? If you have a piece of meat, you're possessing DMT. If you have a bottle
Yeah.
of wine, if you have a carrot, everything you have has DMT in it. So they're going to have to change the law, because there's no defense in the states of not a usable quantity. If there's any there, you're guilty. So they can start arresting people with food.
I will say it's very likely that I could have tried it at some point.
Yeah. And see, in Canada, it's now, it's still under the Criminal
Yeah.
Narcotic Control Act, but the attorney, we have one attorney general for the whole country. Like, laws, we don't have state laws or
Mhm.
provincial laws.
Yeah.
And they said they will not charge anybody with possession or trafficking of
Okay.
DMT, shrooms, acid, weed. Well, weed's already legal, unless it's a commercial criminal enterprise.
That is an incredibly progressive policy.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, and you can order it in Canada. and it's delivered overnight. All these places supply it now. It's become quite popular.
That's crazy to hear. That is
A
absolutely
completely
crazy.
different story in America, at least where we are.
Oh well, in BC now, heroin's legal. Everything's legal. They're trying to, which they gave a 1-year experiment to see what would happen if they legalized everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what Portugal did, and they had like vastly decreased drug addiction
Oh
rate.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Their crime rate went down by 90%, I think, in 2 years. And the guy who campaigned against it, they have one chief of police for the whole country, and he was going on the. He was the anti-legalization guy, and he was saying you're going to destroy the country. The crime rate's going to go up, and he's like the #1 guy. He said, "I never thought this would happen." He goes around the world saying, you got to do this. So,
Well, Stu, speaking of Portugal, I'm of Sephardic Jewish ancestry, and I've heard on one of your lives talking about the differences between Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews. What do you think those are?
I think that the difference is that Ashkenazi Jews lived in the West, and people were trying to murder them.
Yeah.
So only a few survived. Survival of the fittest. Whereas Sephardic Jews, they have a whole range of people because they lived amongst Muslims and were protected.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hear it. Everyone always
Yeah.
has like some like difference that they want to say between them, or sort of.
The difference is that we were murdered.
Yeah.
You were protected.
Well, I mean, Sephardic Jews died during the Holocaust as well.
During the Holocaust, but up until then.
Okay,
like
I'm not gonna.
For 2,000 years before that, they were trying to kill them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known that. I don't know the difference. But in Israel, there's a huge bias against Sephardic, which is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like all the doctors, all the lawyers, all the politicians are Ashkenazi. When that was their country, and the Ashkenazi Jews are the invaders, really. I mean, not invaders because we're all Jews, but yeah. Why are you...
In your documentary, because we were just talking about drug use, and I should have asked this then, but it kind of blanked my mind. It's brought up quite often. And I would like to inquire about your substance habits today, if you still have any. And
weed is about all I do, and not even that much. It's more an economic thing, because I find when I have weed, I'm way funnier on TikToks.
Is it expensive in Canada?
Not that expensive, but I like to get the oil that's like 99% THC, and I'll drink like half a gram to a gram at once. So I like I macro dose. And say with shrooms, I was doing it like at one point I was doing like 10 to 15 grams a day for about a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
To the point I just get a little bit of buzz, but I felt that physically it was helping me.
Well, would you consider yourself a psychonaut?
Yeah. I mean, I just like psychedelics. I like what they do. I like experimenting with them. And I've liked them since, before my brother died, I do them once or twice a year and just sort of analyze my life. And then after he died, I didn't do them for a number of years.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that that these are substances that like everybody should use, or there's like specific people that are like they're good to use these psychedelic substances and other people probably not? Or
well, I think I've heard, and I don't know the science behind it. I've heard this from lawyers, basically. It's some people who are like, and doctors, if you're like borderline psychotic or you have mental health issues, they can really push you over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that because they call them hallucinogens, but you're not having hallucinations on them because you're fully aware that it's a drug experience. Whereas if like someone's withdrawing from alcohol, they'll have hallucinations. They'll think that lion or elephant is really in the room. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you do a hallucinogen, you know that it's not real. But I think if someone does them and they're inexperienced and they do a massive amount, or someone doses somebody with it, they would have a bad experience. And I don't think they should be like done by children and stuff like that. But I think they have an incredible potential to help humanity. And I think why they were made illegal. They were legal until the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And then hippies started doing them, and they started opening their minds and saying, hold on, what about this war? And it was causing problems for the establishment. So they shut them down, not because people were getting hurt by them, but because people were opening their minds and awakening. I don't know if you've seen the stoned ape hypothesis. That
yes,
I have not heard of
the
that.
Joe Rogan thing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's not Joe Rogan. There's a guy who wrote a doctorate on it, and he's been on Joe Rogan. But there's a theory that apes ate the mushrooms, and that's what caused evolution to happen so quickly. Because if you look, like any other species, like takes millions of years to evolve, and and humans seem to have evolved from apes in a matter of I think 10,000 years, which is impossible almost.
Well, kind of still on the same track as drugs, and you were just now talking about them being made illegal. Multiple times throughout the documentary, you hint at a tenuous relationship between the police and yourself. Is that a general dislike for law enforcement, like as a construct, or is that a dislike of the individual police officers?
No, it's a construct. I don't like it's sort of like, but at the same time, I don't like the Gestapo. So I can't say, oh, that's a good guy who's a member of the Gestapo. So there are the occasional policemen like Serpico who buck the system. And of course, we're not as oppressive as the Gestapo. So there are some good cops who think they're making changes and stuff. But 95% of what cops do is oppress minorities or oppress the underclass or oppress poor people. And I know that because I'd drive a car when I was a kid, teenager. I'd be smoking weed. I get pulled over. They never searched the car because I was driving a Cadillac or something, or Lincoln. So, and obviously wealthy from a wealthy family, so the war on drugs is a war on the underclass, and 90% of people in jail in the United States and Canada are there for non-violent offenses. I don't believe in imprisoning people who aren't violent.
Mm-hmm. Was there a concurrent war on drugs in Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
But not nearly to the extent.
Okay.
Like we didn't whereas the States, I think at one point, even by the American government's estimates, 35% of the people in the States were being employed in some aspect of the drug war. Jails, police, DEA, cops. 1/3 of the economy was based on the war on drugs. And what good did it do? Same good as the prohibition.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is not about drugs as much, but having watched a bunch of your lives, or are you good?
Yeah. My batteries gave me a 10% warning.
Oh, you need to plug up?
Yeah, no, I have 10% left. I'll plug it in just in case. Like I broke my iPad, so sometimes I plug it in, it starts getting jittery. I have to get my glass replaced.
But after watching a bunch of your lives lately, and even earlier, I was in there when you had a female friend arrive at your house, and it got me thinking about a line from the documentary where you talked about issues with monogamy. And I wanted to ask if your stance on monogamy has changed at all. And
yeah, I used to think of myself as a failed monogamist, and now I'm sort of exploring the, I even went to a counselor and said, "You're not a monogamist." She said, "You're poly," because I've always sort of lived sort of semi-poly life, and now I'm just saying, no, I'm experimenting with polyamory, and it's sort of interesting. I'm enjoying it.
That is,
but it's complicated because the women are all becoming super attached.
I don't know what you're gonna do with yourself.
Yeah, well, one of them is from your country, and she's planning on moving here. Like I can't get it, but she's convinced her husband to sort of it's a safer place because they have children and stuff. But because of his license in his profession, he's going to be working over the border and
wow.
Yeah, and she's fucking insanely the women I'm attracted to now since I've been on TikTok are just insanely beautiful.
Are you on dating apps like Tinder?
No, TikTok.
He doesn't need them.
Just
you don't need
completely through TikTok. That's amazing.
Yeah,
wow.
I'm dating sort of 1, 2, 3, and maybe a fourth one. I don't know if 4 one's going to come up here, but 3 women I'm actually dating, and I met them all on TikTok.
Do they know about each other?
Yeah, they do, and it's really crazy because by some weird coincidence, 2 of them have the same profession, and 2 of their husbands have the same profession. I'm thinking, what am I attracting? It's sort of very odd.
Do you think the husbands know about you?
I think one of them definitely does, because at one point her phone was discovered or something, and they're sending very wild stuff. Some of them insane, especially since somebody said try Snapchat. These women will call me.
No,
they'll masturbate on Snapchat. And these are married women who have a collection of sex toys. They're just crazy.
Yeah, Snapchat.
I never consider myself very conservative, but I'm what the fuck? And so one of their husbands got upset because they found her phone or something. And so she's like, I can't talk to her for a while. And now she's going online and saying stuff like, oh, I love that big Canadian cock. I'm thinking like, what the fuck are you saying on TikTok? Like, and I just laugh at it.
Legitimately, you are living the life, Stu. That is what everybody wants. That is crazy.
Yeah, I was like pretty conservative before, relatively conservative. Like I'd have a girlfriend and sometimes have like a side piece or something. But now it's like one of them said, can I phone the other one? She's really hot. And she said, I can't. She said, I'm hot. I can't believe you. And she's buying. She said, I can't believe you got her. I couldn't get her. Like, how do you get these dime pieces?
Wow.
She phoned her because she thought, you've got to be lying. There's no way that woman's with you. And this woman looks like a fucking, she's a professional, but she looks like a porn star.
That is crazy, dude. That is absolutely.
And so she, like one's 38 and the other one's like 20, just over 25, like not even 26. I think, like that's sort of young for me. 38, I don't have a problem with, but the 25-year-old is wild as fucking confidence and fucking, you know, and like a super, like a genius. So like, but you know, so the other ones, like the 38-year-old said, I had a dream last night that you were fucking me from behind. I was going down on this other woman. And so they're talking. And so I said, and that's why I made the joke. The problem with dating by women is they steal your girlfriend. The one who's like super hot said, Stuart, there's no way anybody's going to steal me from you. And I don't know if this is true because I thought she was really young because she, like, I get all these messages on TikTok and I can't respond to them all. So she was messaging me for about a year. And I don't know why, because her name ended in a Y, like her first name was abbreviated to like, you know, like instead of John saying Johnny, but without saying her name. And so I just thought she was a kid. And then about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, she sent me $100 on PayPal. You know, and she said, I said, oh, thanks very much. I know. And she said, well, now at least don't I get a follow back? I'm hot, believe me. I thought, well, I'll follow her back. And she was just like the hottest woman I've ever seen. And she's just like wild as fuck. And she said, you'll never lose me. It's you I want, not her. And then she said, you know what? Until I've been in love with you for over a year. I've been celibate because you're the only guy I want to fuck. I don't know whether to believe that or not. You know, that seems a little weird to chase someone for a year because she could get any guy. So.
Well, to kind of get away from that just a little bit, because I do want to come back to your romantic experiences. I've got a couple questions about that. But to steer back to the documentary just a little bit. Throughout the thing, multiple times there are spliced in interactions with you on the street and random strangers. So I wanted to ask, how many random encounters do you typically have a day, and what they're typically like?
Most of them are very simple. Like, you know, I have at least a slow day would be 2 or 3, and a busy day will like 20 or 30 people come up to me. And most just ask for pictures. Some have offered sex, and I just say no. I don't like fuck strangers on the street. And that's sort of really weird. Like to me, that's like bizarre. And that's because when they do that, I feel like they're looking at me not as a human being, almost as an object, because they don't know me. And I think, wow, like there's something about me that I don't know, my energy or something.
Do you think this is a side effect of the new clown order?
Oh yeah. Like being on TikTok has totally changed the way people interact with me.
And that plays perfectly into the next question that I wanted to ask. The last question I have about the documentary, because I mean, like I said, we're huge fans, and so watching that documentary that was like very negative, it really did kind of turn me the wrong way, which kind of inspired this question. Does it feel to you like other content creators that attempt to collaborate with you truly appreciate your message and like you? Or do you think that they're trying to abuse your willingness to cooperate with them for their own views?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are clout chasers. Yeah. And right now, I'm not really doing a lot of stuff with other people. You know,
that was because I had just, when I went out to dinner just a couple hours ago, I watched the one podcast you did with whatever guy that was. I don't remember what it was, like
Johnny Al.
Yes. And it was
I was even on TikTok at that point. I was only on Instagram. And I had like 1,000 followers, and he was pretty big. So it was, if anything, it was the other way around.
But that one to me felt like that was a genuine interaction. Whereas
Oh yeah,
that
he
he
was a
was
great
really
guy.
interested in you and that he liked the message that you were trying to get out there. But the documentary people, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but it did just, it pushed me the wrong way. I did not like the way that they presented your character. So that was just
No,
what
I
I
mean
wanted to ask about.
yeah, they had a very, especially the guy, he has a very left wing view that the elite have to be taken down and we need to communist, like he's a communist, a strong, he's very,
Mm-hmm.
bitter about the way the world is and stuff like that. So yeah.
And now the next couple questions that I wanted to ask, those are about your romantic experiences. We kind of got onto that topic a little bit, but I was like, well, I actually do have some very specific questions about it.
Yeah.
Uh, in this one, you may not want to answer, but I just figured that it would kind of give us a little bit of insight into who you are. When did you have your first like serious relationship? And do you believe the common rumor that you never really move on from your first love?
No, I've definitely moved on.
Mm-hmm.
My first serious one that I lived with someone, I think it was 23, 22, 23.
Mm-hmm.
And that lasted 3 years. And no, I look back on it as kids playing in a sandbox. Like it was a lot of fun. It was a period of growth. But no, I've definitely moved on. And in terms, do you love the person forever? Perhaps in some way,
Mm-hmm.
I know from time to time she'd call me. I haven't heard from her in probably 20, 30 years, but she'd call me, you stuck in New York or something, short money or, things like that. So I've always sort of maintained the friendships, even though like eventually you grow apart from people.
Mm-hmm. And then number two, I wanted to ask, have you ever been in a situation where you were the one that got away? Not someone else, but you felt like they were missing out on you.
Well, I think they all are. I'm sure every
That's a
woman
good
who's been with
answer.
me, especially now, is saying, "What did I do?" Even though there's probably one who's like, who's sort of on the world stage and probably think, "Oh fuck, good thing I'm not with him anymore." But she was like, that was probably the most intense and to me the best relationship I ever had.
Mm-hmm.
In many ways, because she was an equal of me. Not that like some of the other women, especially after my brother, and I didn't understand this when I split with my baby's mom. She said, "You always made me feel like I wasn't equal to you," and I never thought of it that way, but she simply wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize it because she'd just say yes, yes, yes when she wouldn't understand things. And even my daughter, oh no, I shouldn't say it. My daughter said, "Hey, how do you split with mommy so long? Because she doesn't understand the things that you say."
Mm-hmm.
Because English was her second language, right? So it was, and she wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
ask if she didn't understand because she didn't want to look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So
Another question that I had, and it relates to some of your last few TikToks, and even the last live. You often talk about breeding season, and that leaves me asking a few questions. Outside of breeding season, are you attempting to create offspring, or is it only time to breed during certain times of the year?
no. I meant in general. The period of my life that I'm thinking, I feel like I'm 40, like because I'm as healthy as I was 40. I think, what am I going to do for the next 20 years? I want to have new children and a second set of children. And one of the women, Laura said, because she's open about it, wants to have children with me. And I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. And the other one, the other Daytona will say, breeding is cool as a fetish, but I don't want to have any fucking kids ever. She said it's gross. She said, other than the fetish, breeding is gross. But the other one is 27, and she really wants to have kids. I'm thinking, why not?
So breeding season is all year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just in my life, it's like time to breed, I think. Like,
Nice.
what am I going to do next? Maybe have some kids.
I was just wondering about that when I
Yeah, no, it's not.
Is it like
I don't go to heat.
And then my last question that has to do with romantic experiences is, how long do you think that you need to be in a relationship with someone before you consider it serious?
I don't know. I've never really thought about that because because of my openness and the way I connect instantly with people, even in this conversation, like, I instantly, because I don't put up a front and stuff. So that's obviously reflected backwards. So I get attached or connect with people very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So like all the people I'm seeing now has been well under a year, yet they're very intensely connected relationships. And some of them I'm sure will be for the rest of my life, whether they're romantic or otherwise.
Mm-hmm. All right. And that was it from the more pointy questions. The only thing that I've got left is I've got a few miscellaneous questions. I think Alex has some more that he would like to ask you. But thank you so much for so far answering the questions that we had.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like,
we've spent the last I think 3 or 4 days trying to come up with good questions to questions that we asked a lot, and questions that will help us connect with you more and enhance our understanding of your personality when we see you online and stuff like that. And again, thank you very much.
I appreciate it too. I mean, I enjoyed it very much. And one thing I'm doing now, or I'm trying to do, is get a podcast started where it's going to be called Stuart Rosenthal, the guest, and I have different hosts on every week. And so if you'd want to do that, I'd be happy to do that with you.
Yeah, I mean, we could absolutely consider that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I do have, like I said, a couple more miscellaneous questions, and Alex, I'm sure that he has some. So let's get back into this just for just a little bit longer. With your new bank account, because I'm sure, didn't you say earlier that you got one today?
Yeah, I did.
I'm sure that you have a lot of fans that are interested in helping you out. Is TikTok the best way for fans to support you, or are there other avenues that you would like people to explore?
I think that right now, because my TikTok is at the point where I'm getting close to $100 a day just from TikTok, which isn't a lot of money. $3,000 would be less they do for a bail hearing. It would take an hour as a lawyer, but it's almost enough to live on, and it's growing. Like, I mean, it's doubling every month almost. So a couple more doubles, and it'll be, it went from $1 a month to $2 to $4 to $8 to a day to 100. So a couple more doubles, and it's decent money.
Well, how are you supplementing your income? Like, is it are you having trouble like day to day? Like, what's your diet like?
Right now, I'm not. I was having trouble day to day for a while, and a friend was helping me out. Like the problem was I had a little bit of money coming in and did a couple things last year. I thought, oh, this will take off right away, and it didn't. So it took a year to build up to what I thought would have been I was overconfident, but I wasn't overconfident. I was undirected. I was just sitting there putting stuff out without trying to build it. I didn't even know how the lives went. So my one was turned down. I had money in it. I never knew how to take it. I didn't even know that the flowers and stuff were money. The gifts, I didn't know they were money at first.
The next one is kind of just a more fun question, just to give you a chance to kind of reminisce and explore a couple things. In your lives, you frequent various eateries, which leads me to ask what the nicest restaurant or meal you've ever had was, and how you would compare it to the best restaurant or meal you've ever been in. So
the nicest,
whichever one was you would consider the fanciest, and whichever one you would consider the best, if they're different or if they're the same.
I don't care. I like natural food and well prepared food, so I don't care if it's fancy or not. Probably the Ritz was the fanciest because that's really like great service and great food. That's about the best I've had recently. Also, the fanciest.
Okay, I didn't know if you.
But, I've traveled the world, and I like every restaurant I ate in Paris was amazing, and in Rome, every restaurant I ate. So.
Well, let me see. What do you have next? During this time, the next few questions, they're kind of just for fun, During this time of increased social strife, we're witnessing a large uptick in preemptive violence. It is a common idea to quote unquote get them before they get you. And so I think the question to you, Stu, is it better to come in the sink or sink in the cum?
I'm not sure.
we figured that when we kind of stung you.
How about the sink I get, sink in the cum? I think you have to take control of things and be there's so much violence now. It's shocking. In the States, Canada's avoided the violence pretty well. Canada's a very, compared to the States, we're a very peaceful country. Like our murder rate is per capita like a tenth of yours or less. And remember, people exaggerate the risk because we are living in the safest time in human history. Even though with school shootings, it might be throwing the odds off, but But really, like your chances of getting robbed, murdered, raped, killed, anything bad happening here, even in war, is the lowest it's ever been in history. So the media makes it seem very dangerous. But one thing I did notice in Toronto, because I was living in the suburbs, when I came back to Toronto, the number of people carrying guns is ridiculous. Like you walk around and see people carrying guns everywhere.
How does Canada do their like gun stuff? Is it like you can just go get whatever, or
No. Very difficult to get a gun. Almost impossible. So basically criminals have guns.
I can go to Walmart and buy a gun right now. I mean, that's how it is in America.
You can't even you can buy long guns, but even that's difficult to get a rifle. You need a license. You need a course. You need this. There's no, to get a handgun, unless you're target practicing or a collector, you can't get a handgun. Unless there's a threat on your life and stuff like that. But even that, it's, even bodyguards don't carry guns. Like you can't hire an armed guard.
How are you even a bodyguard if you can't carry a? Well, I mean, I guess the other person wouldn't have a gun either, though. So then you wouldn't need the.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a real, to have an armed guard allowed to carry a gun and protect you, there has to be a credible threat on your life. So yeah, if you're a politician and stuff, you can have a guard or someone like. But even I know people have come up from the States, like, and they've wanted like the rappers and stuff, and no, you can't have an armed guard here. Even a Canadian with a license, no, there's no reason for it.
Stu, I saw you in the movie. You were talking about going to Israel and forming a coalition in parliament. Do you want to do that? I'm down to do it with you.
I do it, yeah, because I think I could win.
Hell yeah,
because it's so divided.
It is. You're right.
You're right.
I mean, we'd at least get some seats.
Building coalitions. I mean, my one skill is building coalitions.
Hell yeah. You definitely win some seats in parliament for sure. There's no doubt in my mind.
But you only need, but I'm one of the guys who could probably bring in the Arabs.
You think so?
They have a bunch of seats.
That's a big task.
Well, no, I do agree that Stuart is incredibly
charismatic. You could. I mean, if anyone can do it, honestly, I do think it could be.
And know who's reaching out to me now? Because of TikTok, all these Islamists.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool.
Oh, well, because they see me as a person who can influence the youth.
Yeah.
Like they're pretending that they're just interested and want to teach me about Islam. I think I could play these guys because they're so brainwashed. They're trying to convert me.
I would not have imagined that.
And can you imagine? But remember, Israel has one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world. Even, Jane's Military Review.
I'm not familiar.
I think it's out of Oxford, and they've done it forever. They can do war scenarios, who would win, and they review all the war people and stuff like that, all the armies and stuff. And they said Israel versus the States, Israel would win a short-term war, but they couldn't because it would have such a horrible impact on their economy.
Yeah,
they couldn't sustain it.
Well,
it would never happen, but
that makes sense because all of the wars that they've been in have been like extremely short, like in the span of weeks. Like I think
they've never had it. Yeah, but fighting the Americans would be
fighting the Americans would be a whole different thing. But like the Yom Kippur War was like 6 days or whatever or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the 6-day war, 6 days. I think Yom Kippur was.
Yeah, I'm probably getting confused. Yeah.
But and all of them ended because the Americans said like back off.
Yeah.
Like calm down, guys. Because they could have wiped out the Arab countries. Well, I know there was and which was the one? Was it the 6-day war? Yeah. Afterwards, there's a great documentary on A&E or one of those or History Channel, and they have the head of the they're interviewing a prisoner who was the commander of the Egyptian tank battalion, and they say, "What happened?" He goes, "They cheat. He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Look, you dig the tanks in, the enemy cannot come from behind." And what the Russian thing is, you dig the tank in under sand as long as there's no one coming behind. He says, they cheat, they come and paratroop behind. So the tanks were buried because then you're protected. And just turrets take up. They came in, paratroopers came in and took them all out.
Well, this next question, I actually feel rather passionate about. During your lives, some viewers have postulated that you are actually a genius. And because I mean, you are without a doubt incredibly intelligent, but this actually will determine whether or not you are a genius. This is a true or false question. We're going to 5 seconds.
Well, I have 50% chance I'm a genius.
Does 10 factorial equal 362,880? True or false?
False. I don't
Oh,
remember math.
shit. That was right, Stu. You are a genius, dude.
And math
that's
was my
actually
strong point too.
That's actually
Nice.
crazy. I did not expect that. That oh my God. I don't even know what to say to that. That's actually very impressive. Let me see. I've got another one here. Okay. This also has to do with your lives. In your TikTok lives, you encounter a large number of trolls. One frequent beast is a vicious, disgusting, anomalous blob named Alex Rupert. Do you have a standing opinion on him, knowing that a sizable portion of your fan base consider him to be your nemesis?
I didn't even know. I didn't even notice him actually.
So he's the guy. I don't know if you noticed in the last few lives who will ask if you're Korean or of Korean ancestry. Do you remember that?
Oh no, that's a guy who's okay. I have a close female friend who's Korean.
Oh, okay.
That's this idiot in California, which is the strangest guy. Because I've known him since I was 25.
Is this the Captain Dave guy you're referring to? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he's this Korean woman is very successful and very attractive and stuff like that. And they hated each other.
Oh.
So it's him trying to.
Well, I mean, I think just for your entire TikTok live and everything like that, let's put it to bed, Stu. Are you Korean?
Yeah. No, not to the best of my knowledge.
Thankfully, we can put that one to rest now. Here we go. I've got three more questions actually, or I guess technically four. This one is a little bit of a long one, but I do think that you'll have like an interesting, educated opinion to put a spin on this. The music industry has been an unstoppable force in entertainment since the earliest human societies developed. Relatively recently, two music industry titans met head-on in a colossal duel, which would inevitably lead to the complete destruction of one of their careers. Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly battled, and Slim Shady emerged victorious. But do you think that this should have been allowed? Should we, as a society, condemn and dismantle Eminem's career in the same way that he brutalized Machine Gun Kelly?
All's fair in love and war. So yeah, I mean,
that is a good point. That is actually.
And I simply think Eminem outclasses him, right? Mm-hmm. He's a commercial, like R. Kelly. What it was, Machine Gun Kelly is a very commercial, planned, plotted out guy. Like he's bubblegum rap, whereas Eminem is the real deal.
That is a good point, actually.
Even though I like some of Machine Gun Kelly's songs, they're really well done. But he's not at Eminem's level. Intellectually or musically, I don't think.
Because we had just the other day, I had been in one of your lives and you were talking about Eminem, and that kind of got me thinking: are you a fan of Eminem?
I am. I'm very much a fan of him because he's a guy who's authentic, and he's not embarrassed to say I fucked up. Like he owns his behavior, and that's why I really respect him. How many people look at him compared to a lot of the other artists?
Well, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, he's authentic. I think Machine Gun Kelly's a character, a very talented character, but he's a character.
This eighth question here, where we go to school at, there are a lot of fans of yours, and so we kind of did a poll among people that we know who watch you. And this was a question that they actually asked us to ask you. What is the Canadian equivalent of Walmart, and do you shop there?
Walmart is in Canada. We have Walmarts.
I didn't know if it was like a big deal up there, or if Walmart had their own.
Are the Walmarts physically larger or smaller?
Yeah,
than other stores.
Walmarts?
Oh, they're giant. They're giant. They're the biggest stores there are in size.
No shit.
Oh yeah.
Excuse my cursing, but that is impressive.
And I have been into Walmarts. I have gone into them. I don't do a lot of shopping there. But I used to joke that because I'd never been one. I said there's something called Holt Renfrew, which is like Saks Fifth Avenue, like super high end stuff. And so I used to joke after I broke up. I said I took my ex, never been to Holt Renfrew. I'd never actually been to Walmart before I went with her. So we each introduced ourselves to different cultures. And I have nothing against Walmart. It's a quality thing. Like their food and stuff is all garbage. It's cheap, but it's not healthy. Like I'm really into like your body is your temple, and try to like be as healthy as you can, have the best drugs, the best food.
And then this next question, I kind of asked you about in your live the other day because I've been thinking about it a lot. These are what we're going to call the nickname trials. This is just kind of a little game we want to play real quick. We've got 5 nicknames here from the people that we talked to about you. We kind of sent out a little poll, collected some nicknames that we thought you might like. We've got 5 of them, and we would like you to rank them in terms of what you would least like to be called and most like to be called out of these options. So I'll read them all to you, and I'll let you rank them, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Number 1, Stuart. Number 2, Tyler. Number 3, Lieutenant Detective Stu. Number 4, Stuatonius. And number 5, Doctor.
Well, the lieutenant is last. What were the other ones? Stuatonius?
Tyler.
Tyler makes no sense, so forget. I don't understand that one. And I had a dog named Tyler, so who got hit by a car?
We had
Tyler.
Stubert, Tyler, Stuatonius, and Doctor were the other 4 options.
I like Stuart. That would be number 1. A doctor, and then Stuatonius.
Nice.
That's actually a pretty good list.
Well, thank you for canonizing that.
Thank you. Let me mark down the ones you ranked on that. You said Doctor would be
Stuart was number 1.
Wait, you said Doctor would be number 2?
Doctor 2, then Stuatonius, and then Tyler, and then Lieutenant.
We thought that would be just a little fun game real quick. And then this last question that I wanted to ask, and I probably should have asked it earlier. Through your TikTok and through your Instagram and everything like that, we only get snippets of your life. When you're not making any videos whatsoever, what do you do with your time?
I just will hang out with one of the women I'm friends with pretty well and eat.
Nice.
Even though I was doing a lot of eating on lives at one point.
Yeah.
And that kind of wraps up all the questions we had. But thank you very much. It really was a pleasure.
Yeah, we really appreciate this.
Oh, I appreciate you. Are you going to put it on YouTube or anything?
Yeah, I'll absolutely post it on YouTube. And once I get it posted on there, I'll send you the link on Instagram.
Okay, great.
And I can see if I can send you just like the raw file if you want it. So that you could kind of get like the audio if you wanted it for anything. I mean, I don't know what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I just posted it myself on my own YouTube if you did.
Yeah, that absolutely, we can do that then.
Yeah.
But thank you very much. It was awesome to get to speak to you.
Yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it.
We are
If you want to do it again sometime in a little while, I'm down for it. If you want to also think about interviewing me for my podcast where I'm the guest and have the host on, that would be amazing. And if you want to take over the world by way of Israel, like we can.
Yeah, I'm down. Just let me know.
Alex is absolutely.
I'm absolutely ready to do that.
That would be a good thing. I mean, I think, first of all, even for my TikTok thing, even if I lost the election.
It would be insane. You'd become incredibly like world famous.
First of all, I get all the 18 to 22-year-olds. That's a big voting block.
Absolutely, you're right. This honestly could work.
It could work. I get the female. I get the Arabs, the females, and the young youth.
That's all you need. You could become prime minister.
Have you thought of that?
I've thought of it. I really think I could be prime minister.
Okay. Well, you could do it for real.
But we won't waste any more of your time, Stuart.
Okay.
Really,
Thanks very much.
Really, thank you.
How serious are you about the political stuff? Because I try it.
Have a good night.
I'd be the first openly poly world leader with multiple wives.
That's true.
That would be an accomplishment. That would be a legitimate accomplishment.
Yeah, because someone said they'd have a gay president before they had a poly president.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that, like, probably, right? Just because that's like the natural progression.
Yeah. But Paulie's always been around. Well, so is Gay, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
You too.
Talking to you,
Bye.
Stuart.